What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you an extremely simple 3 or 4-step make.com automation that I've used to build a business, well, 2 businesses actually, that do about $40,000 to $45,000 a month combined just in profit. It's a very simple and extremely streamlined make.com system that allows you to send a proposal before the end of the phone call with the lead. And the reason why that's so important is because when you're selling high-ticket stuff, you need to have really nice proposals. Well, maybe you don't need to, but it certainly helps. And the vast majority of people that do sell high ticket can quickly get stuck in what I call proposal hell, which is like when you're spending your entire life just hunched over a computer trying to design a proposal instead of on the phone or on a video with prospects trying to, sell your service. So my whole system avoids that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it into 2 parts. The first is I'm going to go over the system. I'll go over the flow end to end. I'll go over what you need. I'll even go onto every platform and just show you everything. And then after, I'm actually going to build it out live, and it should take maybe 10 minutes or so. But what I'm going to do is build out a much simpler version, and then I'll just show you where you would need to add in the more complex functionality if you wanted to get something like mine. Okay, great. Without further ado, let's just dive right into it. Let's get you guys going on these high ROI, high leverage proposals. So this is what the system looks like from end to end. At the beginning, we have a type form to catch new discovery call form entries. That's what I call the type form that is going to be responsible for triggering the proposal. And basically what I'll do is I will, every time I have a call, I'll jump on type form, which I bookmarked right over here. Then I'll go to my log a discovery call form and then start. And then first I'll just put in the client information like I did here, which takes like 10 seconds. I'll then define an outcome because I want to be able to log this over time, which is important. So am I sending a proposal? Was this meeting not a fit? Was the meeting a flake? I'll then paste in a 1-sentence description of their business. And this is important because I'm using AI to generate large portions of this proposal. So I need to provide this as sort of context for the system. So I just said it's a growth hacking dev shop that specializes in high-end technology clients. I then very quickly will write a problem statement. And what a problem statement is, if you're unaware, is it's simply what are they suffering from and why is it a big deal? It's basically a way to press their pain points a little. And if you imagine that I'm on the phone with you right now and we're just having a conversation and I'm like, all right, so why exactly is this a problem? Like why, or maybe let's back up a little bit. I'm like, what exactly is your problem? If you could summarize this as succinctly as possible, what would you say that your problem is? Magic question asked during a sales call, by the way. A lot of the time, I will just verbatim write down what they wrote right over here. Now, because I'm using artificial intelligence, which I'll get into later, I don't actually need to format this or anything. I could just do like bullet points. I could take really crappy notes. Like I don't have to do anything fancy. And that's one of the reasons why I built my system the way that I have. I don't really like, looking at a screen, be like, could you please repeat your problem verbatim? What was that, right? I want it to be natural. I want it to be like kind of flowy. And in order for that to work, I just need to be able to scribble some quick bullet points about what their issue is. But this is where I do it. And then I ask for a solution statement. Well, I don't ask for it, but I will propose a solution statement. And while I'm proposing it, I'll usually write it down in bullet points. So maybe this is an end-to-end system in Monday.com that generates articles, which a VA posts on LinkedIn and YouTube, and maybe some sort of CRM that manages all of this. Or let's do project management flow that manages all this. I then ask for platforms and services that I'll use during development. And I mean, I'm knowledgeable enough at this point that I just know all of this off the top of my head. This problem might not make sense, or rather, this question might not make sense for everybody that's watching this video, but for me, it definitely does. I just know, okay, they want this system. Well, they're going to need something to put the data in. They're going to need a third-party automation platform. They're going to need a way to send proposals, whatever. This is where I'll put it in. I then get asked how long will the project take? How much do I want to charge them? And a lot of the time here, I'm basing this off of prior projects that I've done. How much I like the prospect, like, do we get along? Do I think they're going to be a pain in the ass? If so, I mean, they, it's like a sales tax essentially, which, is something you can only really, I guess, do if you've experienced how terrible clients can ruin your life. But if you anticipate that they're not going to be the best, I factor that in here. And then I ask myself if there are any additional costs for platforms, which are just for my own record keeping, really. And then I click submit. And so, I was explaining this process to you while we were watching this video together, but in reality, this takes me maybe like 2 minutes or so. And that 2 minutes is split up where like, as the call starts, I'll get all their information, their first name, last name, company name, email, if I don't already have it. Once I'm at that point, I'll then start scribbling some notes about, what I think their problem is. When they give me more information on their problem, I'll kind of like make it a little more fine-tuned. But the end result is Basically, before the call finishes, I have something like a trigger pointing at them where if I click a button, they're going to receive a very high quality, polished, beautiful proposal. And so, you can imagine how the system is pretty high throughput and pretty high ROI in that way. I'll show you what the proposal is. Actually, it's probably a good idea. This is what it looks like. Anything in yellow is AI generated. So, imagine that you're one of my customers. We just had a phone call, and in it, I wowed you and bedazzled you with all of my claims, how my systems are going to solve your problems. You receive a proposal with its own title, which is all AI generated, has all of the correct information over here. You then have a problem sort of statement, and this is just a lead-in. This is how I frame the problem. And then right down here where it says client problem area, I will then use artificial intelligence to generate a very beautiful looking problem statement based off of the gibberish that I jotted down earlier. I then have a solution statement, which is similar. There's some templated stuff, and there's also some customized stuff. And then my specific proposal uses a process diagram. Now, if you're not selling high-ticket, systems or high-ticket consultancy, you're probably not going to need this, but I just attach this to every single one. I myself have some social proof. Then I have a timeline. My timeline is artificially generated, which is pretty cool. The reason why I'm confident that this is a good idea is because timelines are almost entirely bullshit anyway, unless you're working on big enterprise projects that are over $500,000. And even then, how many times have you heard things going over budget or over schedule or whatever, right? Basically every time. So as long as I just have something down there that sounds authoritative and that rests the customer mind at ease, it's usually good enough. And then I have a pricing page. And the way that my pricing page works is I will have an implementation fee up here, and then I'll also reference platform or software fees. And a lot of the time they just need make.com, which is $30 or $40 a month, depending on their volume and stuff. But my specific pricing is a 50% upfront deposit with a 50% afterwards. So my 50% upfront deposit is calculated using PandaDoc discount feature. And then what I do is I link this to a payment form. And that payment form will actually pop up after they sign the proposal. So the second that they sign, not only have they signed the proposal, but it's also an agreement, which is down here. There's a whole services agreement addendum. So not only have they signed a proposal, they've also signed the agreement, and then I will also have received money before they close the page. And so the whole point of proposal generation for me is, as I mentioned earlier, some of the lowest ROI time that I've ever spent in my life in business is just hunched over a computer trying to polish the perfect proposal. Some of the highest ROI time I spend is talking to cameras, whether that's a prospect or a video like this. And so I try and front load my whole life and my schedule and my lifestyle to just prioritize this as much as humanly possible and then minimize everything else. And so given that, I just try and whip these proposals out as quickly and as effectively as possible. And then I just allow, somebody's decision to rest on whether or not they like me, whether or not we had a good call. And that to me is the deal breaker, right? The game maker, if that makes sense. So by having the payment done, by having the proposal done, by having the agreement done, essentially what I'm doing is I'm just minimizing the hell out of the friction. All they have to do is just like me on the phone call, and then everything else is just, let's get this thing started. That's my specific process. I will show you how to build out your own, and I will build out a simple one for you in a minute. But yeah, that's what mine looks like. And then if we go back to this flow, we then generate the proposal section here using AI. And I will feed in JSON here with just some past client calls that I've had. And I'm sort of training it using in-context learning 3 or 4 times before finally adding my own. And I'll parse the JSON from that previous module. This just allows me to turn it into something that's make.com, modifiable. And then I will do the same thing with the milestones and the timelines. Write 4 sophisticated sounding milestones and associated timelines for a project proposal. Use the provided solution statement and a rough timetable in the following format. This is sort of how I'll do it. And then here's the magic where I actually go through and I select one of the proposal templates that I've created in PandaDoc, and then I actually go and I make it. So yeah, I fill out all this information with the client email, the client company, the client first name. What are the milestones that we just generated? What's the problem? What's the solution, right? What's all that stuff? And then I'll even go as far as adding in that price amount from earlier, and then applying that 50% discount percentage that I mentioned. And then what I do is I also send an email after. So I will send this proposal to the customer, and then immediately after I'll send another email basically saying, hey, Peter, thanks so much for the call. I want to just answer some quick questions ahead of time that I usually get when I send people these PandaDoc proposals. After you sign, you can pay immediately. The second that you pay, I get a notification and I get started within 24 hours. Here's X, Y, and Z, yada, yada. It's very, very streamlined for the customer, and it elucidates just how important the systems that I'm going to build for them are. So for me, it's sort of like showing, not telling, which is obviously a big important reason why my client retention is so high. But for you, maybe you don't need that email module. Maybe you want to structure yours somewhere else or somehow else. Okay, that's it. That's the system from end to end. So what I'll do now is I'm going to actually go out and build a simpler version of this that then you can modify however the heck you want to achieve a similar result. And so we need a couple things for this. One, we need to set up a type form. And then two, we need to set up a PandaDoc template. Now, unfortunately, right before this call, I recorded a whole other freaking video, and then the audio wasn't recording. So hopefully this time the audio is recording. So I've already built this out once, which will make it a little bit faster. But in PandaDoc, if you go down here to Template Gallery, I think you have to be paying for like the $50 a month plan or something like that. If you go down to Proposal, you can find just a bunch of beautiful, very nice, sexy proposal templates that you can then take and then customize however you want. Just tons, as you see here. So I'm just going to choose a new one because that last one that I used is pretty boring. I like this one. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that proposal, and then I'm just going to add a couple of custom fields just to show you, how you can customize this if you really wanted to. Okay, so this is the marketing research proposal template. It's a damn shame that they're using Poppins, man. What a terrible font for this. Any other font would look better. Okay, great. So let's just do this. Let's say, what will do for you? Right now, here's what you're suffering from. And then let's do sales. Let's call this problem statement. This is let's go. This is understandably is affecting your bottom line. To remedy this, here's what we're going to do. And then I'm going to go sales dot solution statement. And then, okay, great. Yeah. And then this is all bullshit. So I'm just going to remove all this bullshit. Goodbye bullshit, goodbye bullshit, and goodbye bullshit. We don't need any of you. And then let's just pretend that the rest of this, okay, let's just like remove the rest of this and then pretend that this is like actual information that's important. And then I'm just going to delete a bunch of more bullshit pages. And then that looks nice. Let's just call this $3,000. And then I'm going to delete this terms and conditions page, and then there'll just be an acceptance. Okay, great. So this is like our wonderful proposal that I created in like 2 seconds. It doesn't really make any sense, but I think the part that you can understand would make sense is when the customer or client receives this during or immediately after a phone call, they get, hey, here's what we'll do for you. Here's a brief breakdown of who we are, and then here's exactly what you're suffering from, paraphrased from basically your own words. This is showing that we're listening. This is showing that we can solve your problem. And so, I mean, this alone might be enough to secure a sale more than half the time. Now, we want the payment form to pop up, so I'm going to click Payment. I'm going to assign the payer as the client. I'm going to go down, and I'm just going to select the actual payment. It's going to pull from this pricing table here. You can also set a custom amount, so if you just want to charge a flat $5K for all these, you can, but I'm just going to pull from pricing table 1. The cool thing is you can then you can customize the price on pricing table 1 using make.com and Typeform if you wanted to. So you can make this bill basically dependent on what you put in through Typeform like I did. Okay, great, that looks good. I'm just gonna call this Marketing Proposal Research Template for Video. And then voila, our Typeform is next. This is the previous flow that I built out, which is now completely pointless and meaningless. So I'm gonna go here, fucking delete all that shit. I don't need any of that. And then pretend that we're starting from scratch again. So how do you actually build this out now? Oh, yeah, sorry, I need to build out the Typeform. What am I doing? Okay, so head over to Typeform, go to My Forms, and then let's just build out a new one, even though I built out that other one. And I'll just call this Marketing Research Proposal Form. Just call it that. Don't like the way that these questions look, so I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to change this from multiple choice to a contact info. I'll say, what's the client's information? And then first name is going to be required. Last name going to be required. Phone number not going to be required. Email required. Company required. All this stuff going to be required. I want a sexy theme. So let's do this. This is cool. I just love space stuff. Okay, great. So what's the client's information? What's another custom field that we're gonna add? And we're gonna add in a problem statement. What's their problem? So we have what's the client's information, what's their problem, and then what I'm gonna do here is just that anybody that uses my form, just so that anybody that uses my form understands the context, I'm going to say your text goes here. Let's say your problem statement goes here. And this is just meant to make it clear what the context is that they're putting in this field. And here I'm going to duplicate it. We'll go, what's your solution? Then I'm going to go down here. Goes here. Okay, great. So that should keep it quite simple and make it so that you understand where your text is going, you understand kind of the point of things. I'm going to remove all these ugly endings, and we're just not going to worry about that, and then publish. Voila, we have a form. Our beautiful form looks like this. No bullshit, we just go straight to the questions, which I like. And now that we have a Panda doc, and we also have a type form, it's time to build out the make flow. First things first, we're going to want to catch that type form response. So I'm going to create one, I'll call it marketing research proposal example for video. That's just so that I know to delete this after. We're going to hook it up to a form ID marketing research proposal form. That's this right over here. I'm going to save that. We are then going to, I'm going to do my famous two-step type form design pattern, which is where I add a sleep. And after I list the response. And you'll see why I do this in a sec. Just a very quick and easy way to separate the origin of the data from the variables that I use for that data, and it lets me test this super quick. We're going to select a limit of 1, and what this is going to do, and this is only really going to work in situations where you don't have a form that's being filled out every 2 seconds. So, I mean, I don't really think there's any situation in which you would, now that I think about it, but hypothetically, if 5 million people are using your form, you probably shouldn't just add like a flat sleep and then immediately list the responses on your type form in ascending order of time. But that's what I do. Okay, and then we're going to create a document using a template, which is this module here in PandaDoc. And then we're going to go down to, we're going to add, let's just call this marketing research proposal 4. In terms of the template ID, we're going to call the PandaDoc proposal template from here. The client email, okay, it looks like the client email is inaccessible. So this is the module that we just set up called list responses. And so this is where I'm going to pull all the data from. This is just what I'm going to use to trigger the flow. I'm not going to pull data from here just in case I ever have to change this. So we can't get the client name or email address yet because we haven't run the form. And when type form has multi-step questions like this with 3 or 4 in a row, you can't do it until you run it at least once. It's sort of just like a particularity of type form. But I am going to put all of the sender information, just that we have it, and then I'm going to click OK. And now you'll see the magic of having 2 steps to any type form flow. We just dragged the trigger onto here, and now all I have to do is fill this out once. So I'm going to say my name's Sally Ann. My email for some reason is nick@leftclick.ai, and then my company is Sally's Tomatoes. Your lead generation is extremely costly and currently only yielding 1 or 2 leads per month. This is a huge bottleneck for your business and something we should fix. Let's not do that. This is a huge bottleneck for your business and slowing growth. Let's do that. What's your solution? An end-to-end lead generation system using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. This will improve your sales revenue tremendously and help you generate anywhere from 20 to 30 leads per month instead of 2 to 3 like you are now. I think I said 2 to 3, right? Okay, 1 or 2. Okay, great. So we have everything ready. I'm just going to submit this first. We didn't put any information here at the end, so it just kind of goes off into the void. That's kind of ugly. But anyway, now that we've submitted that form, we can then use Typeform to list those responses. So I'm going to catch that. Okay, we just caught a mappable answer, and now we have access to all of these fields, which is great. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to fill these out. Client email address is going to be Sally N. There you go, nick@leftclick.ai. Company, Sally's Tomatoes. Client first name, Sally. Client last name, Ann. Sales problem statement. Sales solution statement. And then now I'm going to send this document, and I'll say proposal for Sally. I'll say, hi, Sally, thanks for the chat earlier. Here's a detailed proposal for Sally's Tomatoes. Cheers, Nick. And then I'm going to click OK. Save that. And then I'm going to, should I fill that out again? I don't know. No, I'm not going to fill it out again. But you can imagine how all you do at this point is you click Run, and then you fill out that form again, and it goes all the way through and generates the proposal. Because I'm lazy, I'm just going to use the previous type form submission that I did, and then I'm going to generate it, and we're going to see what happens. So generated, PandaDoc was created. Now I had sent equal true, and so this message will be sent to my email inbox in a moment. I'm going to open that up and see what happens. Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't actually add Sally here. I should have done that, but anyway. Should say marketing research proposal for Sally, which we can do if we just click that, just for completeness sake. Hi, Sally, thanks for the chat earlier. Here's a detailed proposal for Sally's Tomatoes. Imagine how you can do this while you're on the call with the customer. That's why it's so high value. You can literally be like, hey, how's it going? Just to show you how this system works, let me send it to you right now. And then here's the customized statement. This is that sentence that we had earlier that sort of just like, is us whipping our dick out. Here's what you're suffering from. This is affecting your bottom line. To remedy this, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build, I should have said build, but anyway. And yeah, you can imagine how this took, I don't know, 5 minutes. So when you design your own high quality proposal, you can customize the hell out of it way more than I did here. And you can intelligently combine templated sections with customized sections to provide the illusion that you customize the entire thing, even though you only customize an extremely small part of it while you were on the sales call with the customer. Anywho, in terms of what happens here, I click, and then I click finish. And after I click finish, I have a chance to pay. Oh, sorry, I need to sign it on my end. Anywho, what would happen is I would then sign it on my end, or whoever would sign it on their end. Usually I don't even do this. Usually I just paste in a picture of my signature. So I'll just automatically sign it every time it gets sent out. But after that, Sally Ann, in this hypothetical example, she sounds very attractive, would get a payment form. And then from there, she'd be able to kind of take it to the next step. Okay, so once you built out this flow, a natural question is, well, how do I make it more like yours? Where you use artificial intelligence to, I don't know, just add a bunch of really cool functionality. Well, it's as simple as adding a few OpenAI endpoints. I would create a completion, and what I'd do is I would catch the type form, and then I would drag and drop this puppy somewhere in the flow, and then I would either use preview. I mean, by the time you're watching this video, this instruction may be deprecated. But then I would go through and I'd say, based off of this information, based off their problem statement, write me some other stuff. And that way you're sort of like multiplying the effectiveness of just like a few bullet points. Like if you think about it, it's kind of like the way that a wheel works. A wheel multiplies the distance that you travel based off the amount of force applied to an axle, right? Or like an axle allows you to or a pivot point allows you to press a little bit, but then get like a big result. AI is kind of like that for your language. So if you write a few bullet points in the problem statement that I mentioned earlier, you can then use AI to generate like 30 different things based off those bullet points. You could use it to generate subsidiary information, like context surrounding that problem. You could use it to generate like how much you think that this is currently impacting the market and why this is such a big deal. You can use this to generate a couple of other potential systems that you might be able to do for them that are similar but unrelated. You can do so much with this. But anyway, what you do is you'd assign a prompt here, which I can't fortunately do without it yelling at me. And then you would use the JSON module to parse that. And so you'd simply go parse JSON. And what you do is you'd select choices, message, content. That would then parse this and make this usable. And then inside of the PandaDoc, let's say you had another field, and that field was called, I don't know, let's say client date was actually called, context or something. You would then select that, and then you'd call it like client, whatever you call the variable. This is just a notation that Integromat uses behind the scenes to allow you to reference stuff. So it doesn't really exist right now, but you can imagine how if the variable was called client context that your model was outputting, you'd be able to access it. And then you can do whatever the heck else you want. You can like automatically create Google Drive folders for this stuff. You can, I don't know, use it to create like a PowerPoint slide deck and then send it over to them as well. Really, like the sky's the limit. And that's one of the reasons why I like automation so much. It just allows you to do something in 5 seconds and then turn that into the equivalent of like 3 hours of work. It's incredibly impactful, and it also just ensures that the time that you are spending is always on the thing that you're the best at, and then you can just let robots do the rest. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. You now know how I make the money that I make using automatic proposal generation, and you also know how to build that yourself. If you have any other questions or anything like that, or you're just wondering how all this automatic proposal stuff might be able to be applied for your business, just let me know. I'd be happy to either talk about it with you directly or maybe even record a video for you on it if the demand is there. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.